Hello, Guitar Smarts fans. Before you check out this podcast, I want to make you aware of a cool new place where you can interact with other Guitar Smarts listeners. It's a Facebook group called the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's where we hang out and talk about all things guitar. So, if you like the Guitar Smarts podcast, come and chat with Kieran and myself over in the Guitar Geek Hangout on Facebook. Maybe check out some pre-podcast clips and even get involved in asking and answering lots of questions from the other page dwellers. Hope to see you there. Have you ever tried using combined, suspended arpeggios together to solo over an altered chord progression or something? And then he'll go, and then stop and just go, like that.
Like that. And you go, Rick, there's no way like that applies in this setting.
Greetings, welcome back to the Guitar Smarts podcast, the podcast for gigging and hobbyist guitarists all over the world. Hope you're keeping safe and well. This week, Kieran and myself are talking about YouTube. Now, there's no better place online than YouTube to find quick song lessons for those depth gigs, to look for lessons on technique, music history, even tech specs, reviews, and guitar setup top tips. But there's also no better place to be confronted with piles and piles of misinformation and poor quality content. Who do we trust? Who's creating useful content? And who can we recommend to our Guitar Smarts listeners? Kieran and myself will be giving you our favourite and most trusted YouTube channels so you can go and subscribe and dig deep into their shows. Housekeeping. Remember to like and subscribe to this podcast on your preferred podcast app. Why? Because you will get alerts when a new podcast is released, and that means you won't miss another show. And if you liked and subscribed because you like the show and listen to us regularly, then use the links in the description of this show to leave us a rating or a review. This is the best way to support us, and it helps us to grow. There are links in our description to our social media pages too, links to our Buy Me a Coffee page. If you do feel generous, come and see us on the social pages, and we'll be happy to see you there, especially on the Guitar Geek Hangout page, where you can interact with Kieran and myself and everyone else there on the Guitar Geek Hangout. That's about enough from me. Let's get to it. Mate, it is good to see you.
Oh, likewise, man. It's been too long. We've been off for summer. We've gone.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just checking my, because I have every week I always record my audio into the same project,
right,
in Reaper, right?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like it's called a podcast worksheet where I always record the intros and outros and stuff like that. So I've got one folder for all that. And the last time that we recorded was Friday, the 29th of July. I'm like,
that's a long time. I
haven't seen Karen for over a month. August, completely out the window. Didn't happen apparently for Guitar Smarts, did it?
I know. I think we both reached a critical mass with work and family and everything, and we just went, we need holiday, which was unfortunate for the podcast recordings because we love doing these, and it's a highlight of the week. But family time, holiday time, and things needed to happen. But I had a good one. How about you?
Me
How
too.
about you?
I've had
a
fantastic summer. I mean, work's been a bit mad, but it's been manageable. I've had we had a nice week off down on the south coast, and we've done loads of family stuff every weekend. We've been to Longleat, we've been to all over, loads of stuff. It's been brilliant. And Dan's back to school today. It's his first day back today. So so it's been good. What about yourself?
Great time with the family. Went on holiday as well. Went to Longleat.
Did you?
Yeah.
When did you go to Longleat?
I went for my birthday. I was there on August the 17th. We were there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which was, we went there last Saturday.
Okay.
Which was, what was that? Oh, the 26th.
We just missed each other by a week at Longleat. I didn't even know you were going there.
No, it's crazy. It's nice though, isn't it?
It was good, wasn't it? It was really good.
Yeah, really absolutely. Good. How bizarre is that? Yeah. It's still obviously kind of like some kind of, tuned in somehow.
This always happens. Like stuff happens during the week when we haven't spoken, and then we'll come together, and our lives have run some weird parallel, even though we haven't spoken. But for anybody wondering, especially our international audience, Longleat is a safari park in the UK. Believe it or not, you can go on safari in the UK, and arguably it's not the same thing as going on safari in Tanzania or somewhere. No. But it's a pretty good family day out. But it's quite a long way from where either of us live. It's a good few hours drive. So the fact that we both ended up there within a week of each other. That's just fantastic. It's the first time I've ever been. It's the first time I've ever. And
did you do the whole thing?
Oh, we did.
Yeah,
we did. Well, I mean, it's a big place, right? No, we didn't do the house. We didn't do the house. Yeah.
But we did like the train ride. We went through the maze. Kids went in the big play park, with the castle and the wasp splash pad and everything. And then, we had a lunch there, and then we went around the zoo where you can see all the animals. And then we went and did the safari where we drove out of Longleat and drove around into the safari park itself. And witnessed just, lions and tigers just lying around, just been doing nothing, really.
I know. Amazing, isn't it? Did your car remain intact? Or did the monkeys have at it?
Do you know what? I didn't go through the monkey pen because I didn't want, my car getting torn apart. We've done it before, though. We have done. We've done the safari park before, but not the whole. It was more about the rest of the park that we haven't done before. Plus, we got it cheap on Tesco vouchers, so we were like, bonus. Anyway, that's probably enough about safari parks in the UK. Shouldn't we be talking about lawns now?
It makes a change from the condition of our lawns, which have clearly suffered due to the UK drought, hose pipe bans.
We're in a drought. I think Bob Geldof's going to have a concert for us at some point soon.
Let's hope it's better than the last one. What was that? Live?
I don't know. 8 or something? I don't know. What was it?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Was it 8? Was it in 2008? Something like that. It was?
I can't remember. Anyway.
I've got it on DVD somewhere. I haven't watched it.
So our listeners aren't just listening to us fumbling with information that we don't fully understand or know.
That's true. Should we talk about something we might know?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask. So we haven't spoken for about a month because of holidays and stuff. But I was wondering, have you still been gigging? Have you started any gigs? Have you been playing much, practicing much? What have you been up to?
Well, actually, having said that, August the band takes a hiatus as well for various holidays. Which, ironically, I've had the most contact from venues and pubs throughout August because it seems like other bands have done the same. So I've had so many people contacting me going, can you do this gig? Can you do this gig? This band's let us down or cancelled or whatever. So, but no, we took a break in August. We had a really busy July, a good run of gigs in July. And then we deliberately took August off. But it's all kicking back off again, and 2nd of September now. So, got a wedding gig this evening.
Nice,
big wedding gig, and then another wedding gig next weekend with the band. So yeah, things are kicking off again for September. So. Since I last spoke to you, I've done a few gigs. Gigged the Les Paul for one of the gigs that I did just before the break, which I said I was going to do.
Instead of the Strat?
Instead of the Strat. Did that. I've been talking about doing that.
So how did that feel? Tell us about that, because did you find yourself playing differently through the night? Or
yeah, mate. And actually something well, it wasn't the best moment of my gigging career, I must admit, actually. So we'd actually gone to the pub. It was just a pub gig. So I thought, actually, this is quite a nice one just to try it out. It's not a wedding or anything like that. It's kind of a nice, straightforward pub gig, and a pub we play quite frequently on the kind of area circuit kind of thing. So yeah, it was like, this is a great one just to try out the Les Paul. So I put some different pedals on the board that I knew worked really well with the Les Paul. We managed to get down to the venue very early because we know the landlord, and there was a few numbers that we actually wanted to play in that evening's set, some new ones. So the landlord was really cool. He said, well, actually the pub's going to be empty in the afternoon before we open. If you guys just want to come down, set up early and do your rehearsal here, you can do that. So I thought, actually, that's quite a nice thing to do. Why not? Free rehearsal space. We'll figure out the new numbers and go from there. So we had a nice little rehearsal in the afternoon, played for a couple of hours, and all was good. Les Paul sounding amazing. Really, I was just like, yeah, this sounds great. And especially what I did appreciate was the fullness and the richness and the warmth of that sound, especially as one guitarist trying to fill out the gig.
It's all about the mids, isn't it, with a Les Paul? Don't you think? There's nothing quite has the mids like a Les Paul has.
It really helps, you know, and obviously it's a comfortable place for me to be on a Les Paul anyway, but I did wonder how it would, you know, work with some of those more kind of stratty single core sounds that I needed for some of the kind of more funkier numbers that we have in the set. But do you know what? It was absolutely fine.
Yeah.
It cuts through, and in the mix of a band, no one's going to go, oh, that doesn't sound quite single coil enough. You should be using a Strat. So it was all good. But here's the but.
Okay.
About halfway through the first set, bearing in mind I've been playing quite a bit in the afternoon, the most bizarre thing happened to me that has never happened in the 25 plus years that I've been gigging or indeed playing guitar.
Okay.
And right in the middle of a song, my entire left hand went into full cramp and spasm, and all my fingers literally locked up in this bizarre twisted position. And it was the weirdest, scariest experience that I can describe, especially when you're the only guitarist in a band and you're trying to hold down the rhythm section of a pretty fast paced song.
Oh,
and yeah, it was really fucking scary. Pardon my French. So anyway, you know, thankfully, as I said, pub we know well, audience that we know well. I just turned around to the band and just was just like, yeah, this has happened. Everyone was and look, again, credit to the fact that the band that I'm playing with are just a super nice bunch of people, right? We took a break. Some folks from the audience got me some ice and got me some ibuprofen for my hand. It was just literally a serious cramp. Now, I put it down. This has never happened to me before, so I put it down to a couple of things. One, and this is lessons for the road, right?
Absolutely. I'm really interested by this.
Yeah, because this wasn't funny, and thank God it wasn't a wedding gig or something, you know, like that, where it would have been a killer moment for the whole evening. But you know, this was a pub we know well with an audience we know well. So we took a short 10-minute break, and you know, thankfully my hand sorted itself out, and I got on with the rest of the gig pretty unscathed, and everything was fine. But lessons. One, I hadn't eaten properly that day because we'd had that earlier rehearsal during the day. I hadn't eaten properly, so it was, you know, blisteringly hot summer, right? We've been having here, so I think I was probably a little bit dehydrated, and maybe, you know, lack of potassium or whatever, hadn't eaten properly, and maybe that caused the cramp. Possible. More likely, that's the first time I played a Les Paul in months and months and months.
Oh.
And my standard, because I've just been gigging the Strat religiously, right? Yeah. And practicing at home on the Strat and everything, right? Different neck shape, different body weight, and more importantly, and we've spoken about this on the podcast before, and my 17-year-old self is gonna hate myself now. But you know, I put on the Les Paul slung low.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Heavy guitar, slung low, 10 gauge strings versus the 9 gauge on a Strat.
Yeah.
And it was a completely different playing position that my hand and body was in.
Yeah.
And I think the main reason my hand experienced that was the playing angle of my wrist with the guitar strung so low, playing all these complex fast positions, right? The only guitarist in a band, so you're constantly working, right? You're not just doing little fill-ins here and there. You're constantly playing to keep it going. I literally could just think my hand was just like, you know, this guitar is too low. It's a different neck profile. It's really heavy. Well, noticeably heavier strings than you're used to on a Strat, and it just reacted badly to it. So I raised up the guitar for the second set, raised it a bit higher, not kind of like stupidly high, but
yeah, your guitar didn't have a chest size for the second set. Exactly. And I got through it, but. Yeah, I'm wondering what to do tonight. Because actually, this is the first time I've had any nervousness and trepidation about going to a gig and playing a gig for any physical limitation. Yeah. Right? You know, when you get ill and you feel like you've got a cold or whatever, or you're feeling a bit under the weather, you can battle through it and you can get on with the gig. And God knows when I was younger how many gigs I did with hangovers and sleepless nights as a teenager when you've been partying and all of that. All of that. You know, you can get through a gig if you're feeling a bit rough. But the unexpected
unexpected nature of what happened to me on that gig is worrying me tonight. So I don't know whether I should just go with the strat and
I think
play it safe.
If you want to ease your kind of anxieties about the night, go with the strat. But I think you've already identified a lot of reasons why it happens. Cramp's a preventable thing, right? And the other thing that you didn't mention, which I'd ask, is do you warm up your left hand properly before you gig? Because there's some guitarists out there. I remember when I was at ACM, one of the teachers at ACM was a guy called Dave Kilminster, who's now like Roger Waters' guitarist. He's done for Stephen Wilson. Very, very proficient guy. And he was off for the first year I was at ACM. He was off teaching because he spent a year recovering from an RSI-induced injury in his left arm. His left arm's covered in scars from operations he had on having to... No. Because he was such a technically proficient guitarist, but he said he spent his whole young career doing all this stuff. And he said he never warmed up. He would go straight into practice sessions and try and doing ridiculous stuff. And then he had that injury that nearly ended his guitar playing career. Came back to guitar playing. It's fine now, but even then in ACM, he said he wouldn't start playing guitar for one moment without going through a proper left hand and right hand warm up routine where he's doing exercises to stretch his muscles and his arms and to loosen up, to properly get movement going, to make sure he's warm and his hands are up to temperature. And then he'll start doing easy things on the guitar just to bring things, and he's slowly bring his body up to the point where it's ready. And I wonder whether that's part of it as well, whether you've gone straight into a gig, picked up the guitar, you've not warmed up, and your left hand, it's like anything, right? Any athlete or anybody, they would do stretches and things like that to ready their body and to improve performance. And I think you should consider that as well.
I think you're absolutely right. And I've heard it didn't take long. It didn't take long into the podcast, but I've heard Lukather talk about this as well. Right? Sorry, I said that just as you took a sip and spat your drink all over the microphone. But I've heard Lukather talking about this as well as one of his top tips for guitar playing when he's doing one of his kind of completely incomprehensible lessons or tone tips, right? Which no one understands, but we all watch because he's just a genius. But one of the things he said is like, man, seriously, take time to warm up because that's the biggest thing. And if it starts to hurt, stop. That's your body telling you stop and wait. Don't try and play through it. Otherwise, that was the other thing I was worried about on the gig, was like, if I play through this, Lukather's told me not to. So, And
Lukather, what would Lukather do? That's the ethos we've all got to live by, okay? What would Lukather do?
What would Luke do right now? So,
do more than I can do. That's what he do.
Well, clearly. But look, you're absolutely right. And that's been on my mind as well. So what I've been doing, I haven't done it for the last couple of days, which is a bit silly because I hadn't had the time, but I've been practicing at home with the Les Paul, slung at a comfortable height, but not stupidly low, but not a crazy high, where again, it doesn't feel natural to me. And I've just been doing a few minutes a day, warming my hand up, getting used to it, trying to see if that problem replicates itself. And it hasn't, thankfully, but just doing a little bit of warm up. And I think that's a key point. So what kind of things can we be doing to warm up before a gig? Like what is it? Like hand stretches, some chromatic scales, some gentle kind of passing notes, and just trying to...
Anything that's working your forearm and your hand that in a gentle way, it's just going to really help, right? I mean, I would generally kind of, just keep my left hand moving before I'm gigging. I mean, it just literally just kind of, I'm not really doing any exercises. I'm not trying to kind of overly stretch or overly, I don't want to tighten things up I'm not like bunching fists and going stretch. I'm just trying to keep my left hand moving and keep it warm. And just, and then when usually for a gig, if we're doing a sound check or something like that, I'll keep my volume rolled down, obviously, whilst other people are sound checking, but I'll keep just playing the guitar, just running scales up and down slowly, nice and slowly. It's all got to be just slow movements just to get your hand, ready, because you don't want to go into, that first song and just be completely cold, because then your body's constantly trying to catch up and you're never going to feel right. So I think you'll be fine, mate. I think you'll be absolutely fine tonight, as long as you're hydrated and you've eaten better today and you do a bit of warm up beforehand. In fact, I've been on a gig before with a bassist who had the same thing. Unfortunately, it was the last. It was like literally the last song of the second set, but. About halfway through the song, and he was playing, and it wasn't his hand that cramped up; it was his entire left arm, and it actually cramped up in such a way that he nearly knocked himself out. Punched himself in the face. His arm just came away from the base, and he just went bang. He just went up against his body, and he kind of collapsed on the floor in pain because he didn't know what was going on. But it was literally just his whole left arm had cramped up. And it was on a gig with Connor. Actually, Connor literally just went to the microphone and was like, "Good night, everybody." Just said, that's it, and just kind of it was almost like curtains, But it was scary because for a second we were like, he's collapsed on the floor and he's holding his chest.
And exactly.
But it is actually his left arm had cramped up against his chest, and it was right. Man, it was a scary moment. But
good Lord, that's even worse. But very good advice, mate. So after we've set up, you know what it's like with the wedding gig kind of thing. We've got to be set up and sound checked by a certain time, but then we've got a good few hours downtime. Yeah.
Oh, let me show you something quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, it's dodgy that I'm standing up after I've said that, but just
for our audience,
get one of these because I've got one of these which comes in handy. There's loads of cheap ones on Amazon.
Oh, is it one of those string-based things? Yeah, I've seen those. Right?
I've just got it. It's got some like, you see some little. Obviously, our readers can't see this, but I will put a picture of it up on the Guitar Geek Hangout and on a thing. But what it is, it's just like it's got like 5 little. I don't know why it's got 5. I can't get my thumb up there at the same time, but it's got 5 kind of like things that you can press down, and it's got some screws underneath it that you can set the tension. So you can set the tension like really loose, so it's no effort at all. But you can effectively keep that in your gig bag, and then if you've got half an hour or an hour sat around before the gig starts, you can just sit there, just kind of keeping your fingers warm,
definitely
a bit of light pressure, just getting them moving. And you can pick these up for like 5 or 10 off Amazon.
Definitely ordering one of those off Amazon. I'd forgotten about those. I'd never really seen the value in my head because when it doesn't happen, you just think, nah, I don't need one of those.
I don't think there's any value in terms of technique because you're not pressing strings down a centimetre at a time, are you? But I do see the value in it in a way of keeping your hand warm as a warm-up routine and just having it just to warm your hand up and get those muscles moving without overly being strenuous on them or anything like that.
Absolutely.
Get one of those, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll get myself one of those. So, but yes, that's definitely what I will be doing, is making sure I'm properly hydrated, I've had something to eat, and more importantly, as you say, I'm going to take my guitar off the stage, take it to the kind of green room, whatever waiting area we've got, and I'm just going to sit there with it on my lap, and half an hour before we go on, just do some gentle warm-up exercises, make sure everything's working as it should, and as you said, then I'll be fine. So,
yeah, man, you'll be good.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, buddy. Good advice. Good advice.
No worries.
How about you? How's things been going with you on the playing front and practicing front? Or did the guitars take a holiday as well during
guitars? Mostly took a holiday. I mean, I had the last time we recorded was the end of July, and my last gig was the weekend after we last recorded. And my next gig is this weekend, so I haven't really done anything. I've literally been on holiday. I've been playing at home, doing some practice, and taking the time to kind of do a bit of playing that isn't just learning stuff for gigs. Because the last time we talked, it was all about being in a rut, and I feel like I'm out of that now. I feel like the conversation that we had was really a big helper to that, and I realised that for me, I think getting out of a rut is not really. I kind of, it's just a psychological thing that I just got to work through each time it happens, and it kind of happens about a yearly basis, and it's usually when I guess it's a combination of a few things, my general mood, and disposition, and frequency of gigs, and having time to work on playing guitar, and eventually I kind of just started feeling like, I just can't find the enthusiasm at all for this. And then I just need some time to kind of let that pass, and then just remind myself to pick up the guitar and do something that I know will make me feel better. And the thing for me is always just to learn something new that I couldn't do before. Not necessarily a technique, but like, a song or a solo or something. Just spend an hour playing something and going, I'm going to try and play play this or that. And because that's how I kind of, I had guitar teachers when I was younger, but the thing I loved doing the most was like sticking on a record and trying to learn by ear how to play something. And I still feel like that now. I still love learning things by ear and, not looking for tabs and things like that, just trying to figure out a way, because invariably you end up doing it differently to how the other person's done it. But then you've kind of come up with your own way, and then that goes into your vocabulary, and you'll be jamming along to something else and you go, oh, that bit from that solo has just come out and I haven't really even thought about it. And then I realise I'm out of the rut. So this last month's really been about getting out of that, and feeling good, man. So,
I'm so pleased to hear it, man. And look, I think what we realised from doing that podcast episode is, from comments on our social media and stuff, is like everyone gets that, and it's a totally normal thing, and it is cyclical. It does happen, and it's part of that journey, isn't it? It's part of the journey of trying to incrementally move yourself forward as a player and feel like you're making, you're getting better and you're getting more towards the kinds of things you want to do, but also recognizing that everyone, even the greatest players in the world, have their own limitations and feel like they're stuck in a rut sometimes. But I'm really pleased you've kind of had some time to get out of that, because I've been there myself as well, mate. And it's unfortunately for me, when that generally happens with my playing, is I start going and buying stuff, because that's the way to try and not necessarily expensive stuff, but just stuff to try and get myself inspired again. And that's not a solution. That's never really the solution. The solution is exactly what you described, which is the solution is figuring something out that moves your playing forward, that makes you feel like you're getting better as a player, because that inspires you to keep playing and doing more. It's a sticky plaster approach often, I think, just buying a new piece of gear to try and get you back into playing. Maybe. Unless you don't buy Helix like you. Right.
Well, I think also it's kind of like, feel the feeling and move on kind of thing. There's an element to that occurred to me that, which is, being in a rut and feeling, a little bit depressed about my own guitar playing and where I am and how to move on from it. Or, it's kind of initially it felt like something you've got to back out of, like, I need to find a way to come out of this, when really it's just a case of you just got to accept that that's where you are. I kind of thought, I'm not the guitarist I want to be, but it doesn't mean I have to be fed up about it. I can carry on, moving on and trying to learn things bit by bit, be a better. Try and turn it. I turned it on its head to say it's a good thing you've still got things to learn. That's a positive thing. Because sometimes learning for learning's sake is better than just having something that you've learned. Do you know what I mean? Like the process of learning itself is almost the best part rather than the outcome. So
absolutely. And when you're telling yourself that, I'm not the guitarist I want to be kind of thing, just always remember that you are the guitarist I want to be. So No, but
that's a lovely thing for you to say. Thank you, man.
Well, but genuinely true. But also, it works for everyone, right? Because there's there's always somebody that wants to be able to do what you can do on a guitar that they can't do, right? Yeah. And I've been reminded of that when people come up to you at gigs and go, "Oh, your playing was great," or "You're doing this and you're doing that, and that sounds amazing," or "Wow," and you're like, you might be having a worse gig that I can't stand my tone tonight. I'm not in the pocket. I'm just like, the groove is not with me tonight, and I'm not having a great night. But they're like, oh, I wish I could play guitar like that. So so don't take for granted what you can do.
That's a really good point as well. Perspective. Have perspective on it.
For sure.
Fantastic. Well, what a great catch up. Sorry to interrupt this conversation. However, if you've made it this far, you should definitely subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast app. Go and do that now, then come right back. Let's get back to it.
Well, so it's a nice segue, really, isn't it? So to getting some inspiration though from others and talking about maybe the guitarists we would like to be or people that inspire us. And obviously, in this day and age, YouTube is a huge kind of platform for guitarists. I mean, I think there are guitarists and guitar-based stuff on YouTube, which is massively inspiring to people. Be it from a lessons perspective, be it from a kind of improving your technique, improving your sight reading, improving your music theory, improving your knowledge of the guitar as a functional instrument, how to set it up, how to make upgrades, mods. It's all there. It is all there in a way that is oftentimes overwhelming, but always just like a pleasure. There's no dearth of knowledge now out there, and I don't know about you, but I often find myself turning to YouTube to see the answer to a question that's plaguing me, or oftentimes if I can't find anything to watch on Netflix, I can lose days and hours on YouTube because there's so much stuff there, and there's some great content creators out there doing stuff that inspires me, helps me get out of a rut, stops me watching TV and makes me go and pick up a guitar because I want to try and do something they've seen. So we thought, well, it was your idea for today, but it's a great one that we have a chat about some of the content on YouTube that we're loving, and maybe give our audience some names and channels they might not have heard of, or ones that they maybe they have, and can maybe on our social media, our audience can also suggest after this episode some of the ones that we should have mentioned that we didn't.
That would be a great idea. I think if people do that, it'd be really, really help contribute to, what we're trying to do. But you mentioned about having, YouTube being a great place for all this information. I find, it to be, such a fantastic resource. But the problem is that there's almost too many, there's almost too much, like if I put in something like, I want to learn the solo to Sweet Home Alabama or something like that, I can press return and I can get 10,000 responses. So it's great that you've got it all there, but how do you choose what are the quality channels? And I think for me, I feel like I follow a handful of channels that some of them are educational, some of them are equipment demo based, some of them are a bit more philosophical, some of them are a mix of those things, especially. But for me, the high quality channels that I think you're really worth going to and seeing some of these guys and listening to them, because they're frequent places that you can go for reliable and really helpful information.
Absolutely.
So shall we make a start? I mean, I've made a list of about 5 channels kind of thing. And the first one I wanted to mention is probably, it's easily the biggest name on the list.
I wonder if it's the same as mine. God.
It's Rick Beato.
The musician's musician.
The musician's musician. So Rick Beato has got a channel on YouTube. It's the biggest channel that I've got on my list. I think he's got about 3 or 2 million subscribers now. Which is huge. And the quality of what he does is incredible. He does an incredible amount of varying content, right from technique and music education stuff, the very basics of theory, all the way up to analysing, some of his favourite songs and why those songs are great, to production skill. Just such a fantastic, it's like, I think his channel, he calls it Everything Music with Rick Beato, and it really is everything music, but he's an incredible musician and a great guitarist himself. And his presentations, isn't he fantastic? Yeah, he's so great. It's great. Follow him on Instagram as well, and he does a lot of stuff there, but his channel I find so informative. He's had some brilliant guests on, I think because his channel's grown so much now. He's interviewed people like Sting recently.
Lukather.
He interviewed Lukather, which was a great interview. He also interviewed Brian May, which was fantastic. It's just some great interview, and he's really a champion of great music. He's one of my favourites for sure, because he explains things so well. I mean, for example, he did a video the other day. I think the video was called "The Greatest Piece of Music Ever," and he was talking about the outro music to the E.T. movie. John Williams' piece. And everyone knows his music from E.T. But he was playing it, and kind of you're listening to it thinking, "Wow, this might actually be the most brilliant piece of music ever." And then he breaks it down on the piano to say, "This is why it sounds so great. These are the techniques and the motifs and things that John Williams is using, all within like the major scale, and then he's doing something modal here." And you're just thinking, wow, I didn't realize that's how this works. works, and it just sounds like a great piece of music. And you're thinking, how could he compose something so wonderful? And then Rick kind of goes, well, this is why there's so much tension and release. He just breaks it down for you. And it's a 10-minute video. And then he plays a piece of music at the end and goes, that's it. It's amazing. And just like having somebody online who can not just be a great host for new music and for new artists and for new skills and stuff, but who can take simple things that universally loved and enjoyed by people and explain the theory behind it or the technique behind it, and just to give you information. She's just such a fantastic resource.
I agree. I find him as a presenter really engaging. Like his studio backdrop and his studio that he presents from and works on, it just looks like a dream place to go and sit in and play. It just looks amazing for a start. And he's got the piano in there, he's got all the guitars, but he's got this charisma and this passion. And, it feels like he's talking directly at you and you're having a conversation one-to-one, which is a real skill. It doesn't feel like he's just kind of trying to speak to a camera. You can make a connection with him. What I would say and it's not a criticism, it's my own limitation. I do think a lot of his content, not all of it for sure, because he does have a very good gift at demystifying and breaking down complex stuff into ways that people can try to understand it. But I do think his level of music theory and his ear and his kind of skill set is at such a high level that I think for a listening audience, unless you're just watching his kind of guest interviews or whatever, I think you do have to have at least a kind of intermediary level of understanding of some of the music theory. I mean, some of his TikTok videos, he has that classic catchphrase at the end after he's explained something in like 10 seconds where he just goes, like that.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
and you're watching it going, and there is no way that you can use that flippant phrase like
That's
that
so
as a way of just saying to somebody, this is how easy it is. Just do it like that. Because
he'll
clearly
say something crazy, won't he? Like, have you ever tried using combined, suspended arpeggios together to solo over an altered chord progression or something? And then he'll go and then stop and just go like that.
Like that. And you go, Rick, there's no way like that applies in this setting, because like that makes it seem like geez, anyone could do it. A monkey could do it, and clearly they can't. But I know it's tongue in cheek for him, and clearly that's why we all love to hate him. But I mean, he's phenomenal. He's really phenomenal. I was watching some of his stuff last night, and he's just a cool dude. And again, to have that level of knowledge, just wow. It's inspiring. It is inspiring and frustrating for me in equal measure. Yeah. But he's great. He's good.
So moving on, who's next? Who's on your list?
So, somebody that is probably equally impactful on YouTube, and if you're a guitarist, probably a household name if you're a guitarist and into guitar playing. But I would say pitches his lessons in inverted commas, because it's not just guitar lessons. He talks about tone and other stuff guitar related, but it's pitched much more at, I would say, a beginner to intermediate level. Right. And that's Marty Schwartz.
Oh of course. Yeah.
So his channel, I can't say it in anything but an American-esque accent. It feels weird to say Marty. But
Marty.
Marty.
Hello, Marty.
Hello, Marty. Marty Music. Marty Schwartz. But he's just cool. He's just super approachable. He's got great chops, great player. Like, he's probably, should I be ashamed to admit it? I shouldn't, because he's awesome. But I often, if I get stuck on something that I'm trying to learn, he's like my go-to guy, just because he produces so much content, and if you're trying to learn a song, 9 times out of 10 he's done the lesson on it, right? And his lessons are super easy to understand. They're pitched at exactly the right level and speed and pace for me, where I can just watch his video in 30 seconds and go, got it. thanks, dude. That's how you do it. And I can just steal it with pride and go, thanks, Marnie. That's another one that I've nicked off you. And you've just saved me a few hours. But you shouldn't learn a song like that, guys and girls.
Well, no, I think it's, but it depends, right? If you need to get out of jail quick because you're short of time, you've got a gig, you want somebody who can explain something to you easily and quickly and make it digestible. And that's what he's good at, right?
That's what he's great at.
Really great at it. But he's just a fantastic teacher and really, good personality to watch. There's some people on YouTube that I've gone to their videos for lessons and thought, you're not really, you're not presenting this very well. But he's obviously got that part of it down really, really well, hasn't he?
He has. He's got a big grin on his face. There's no ego or that comes across on the camera. He makes it super simple for you. And exactly as you say, he's my get out of jail guitar teacher on YouTube, right? Where I'm in a pinch and I need to figure out a song quickly. He'll have done a version of it and it's exactly right for me to just take it and nick it. So I owe a lot of depth gig kind of preparations to Marty for getting me out of a pinch.
What man? You probably owe him some money.
I probably did. No, I'm not going that far. I'm sure he's earning enough money. With his 3.46 million subscribers on YouTube, I'm sure he doesn't need any of my meager money. Incidentally, on that note, the Guitar Smarts podcast is currently, not with a sponsor. So if anyone would like to, or indeed just buy us, buy us a coffee, as guests have been kind enough to do.
Buy us a coffee.
Buy
us a coffee.
3.46 million subscribers on YouTube would be lovely, of course. But a coffee would be equally just as nice. Anyway, awesome, he's my second go-to guy.
That's a good shout. I like that one. Marty Schwartz, go and check him out. Cool. My next one is a little bit of a different one, and this is a bit of an unknown guy because he doesn't have 3.6 million. Last time I checked, he only had about less than 3,000 subscribers. So, but I heard about this guy through another YouTube channel that's not on my list, a guy called Michael Nielsen, who's a composer and guitarist. He mentioned him and I started following him, and I absolutely love this guy's channel. It's a guy called Clifton Wright. His channel is just called Clifton Wright, and Wright with a W. And he's actually a guy who's in the US Army. He's in the US Army. I think he was recently stationed out in Japan. Now he's in Germany. But one of the things, he's in the army as a bandsman, so he plays guitar in the army,
I've just pulled him up on YouTube and I can see he's in his combats. And,
exactly.
Desert
combats
with a pedal board.
That's right. Yeah, but he does a lot of. He's done a lot of kind of like just ad hoc videos where he's just kind of on his phone recording his rig or doing a particular guitar he's got hold of, and he does some properly more produced stuff as well. But one of the things I love about him is he is an absolute monster guitar player. He's originally from Texas. He does the country and bluegrass thing amazing. He does the shred thing, does the blues thing. He's just an incredibly proficient guitarist. But he does some really cool retro gear demos is one of the reasons I like him. So things like old rack equipment, he's a big fan of that like 80s guitar sound. So he does a lot of that stuff. He's got, he does a lot of vintage pedal demos and stuff like that. And part of that is because when he was stationed in Japan, he was able to get hold of a lot of vintage gear quite cheaply and kind of repair it himself. I really recommend his channel purely. I really recommend his channel purely just to see somebody who can really shred and rip it up, play guitar on some really cool equipment. And he's got a really cool and endearing style of presenting. Quite a funny guy, but it's just I find him a pleasure to watch. And it's a cool channel that should be bigger than it is.
Clicking the subscribe button as we speak, so he's now earned at least one more subscriber today as a result of that. Good recommendation, mate. I'm just looking over the kind of content he's creating, and there's loads of videos that I'd love to watch of his stuff there.
Absolutely. Cool, like he did one of the things he did about a year ago is he did a demo of like the Boss ME8, one of the most like the 90s
iconic
FX pedal, and took some of the sounds out of it and then made some tracks with the sounds, and it's just like I want to get a Boss ME8 now. This sounds so good.
Do you know what I've often thought of that. I've got most of my guitar gear sits in this room and like it's all nicely organized and stuff, but up in the loft there is like my original Zoom 1010 first multi-effects pedal. I really want to know what that sounds like.
I can hear it.
Now.
I can hear it.
It's calling. It's calling.
Shouting.
I still work. You've still got the adapter for me. Plug me in. I'm going to do that. So I'm going to have to go back up into the loft or the attic, whatever you call it, in a couple of weeks to get some stuff down for the house. So yeah, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to get that. I'm going to plug it in, and I'm going to tell you how it sounds. Like, that was my first effects pedal back in 1995.
Wow, mate! It should go on your board. Get it on your board. Get it on your board. It's like put it in your chain as one of your multi effect that you can call up, like some tremolos and weird delays and things like that. Why not? Who cares about true bypass?
Who cares about true bypass and modelling? This was pre-modelling, people. Nothing was modelled in this.
No, exactly. It'll still be all analog, probably, and a little bit digital. Anyway,
God knows. Anyway, Clifton Wright, good shout.
Wright. Next for you, who's on your list?
Okay, so look, I'm going to keep with that theme then and go to, because there's plenty of, like, I use the term household names. Like, clearly, most households will never have heard of them, but in the realms of guitar players, there's loads that we could mention. But I'm going to stick with your theme of lesser knowns, potentially lesser knowns, who I think are worth checking out. And this is a guy that I only stumbled across. I've clearly been living under a rock, but I only stumbled across in the last 2 weeks. And I've just really been enjoying listening to his playing, actually, in terms of just getting some inspiration. And that is a guy called Joe Robinson.
Okay.
So Joe Robinson, he's Australian. He's an Australian guitar player, self-taught guy. He is like a virtuoso guitar player, right? But he actually, and I didn't know this until I've been watching his videos for about a week or so. I didn't know, but he got his kind of claim to fame. Right? So it was more than a claim to fame. But he won one of the seasons of Australia's Got Talent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But the track that made me just stop and just go, wow, that's a great player, and is his rendition and cover of Clapton's Layla.
Oh, really?
But there's a couple of versions that he's done. One is just a pure fingerstyle version, but it's the one where it's not that one that caught my attention. It's the one where he's playing and singing, and then he does an overdub with a kind of bit of electric guitar, beautiful kind of Gibson hollow body type thing.
Yeah.
And just the finesse of his playing, it blew my mind. Really? Absolutely blew my mind. I'd be interested to see what you think of him. Like, when you get some time, like, put on a really decent set of headphones or listen through something really like high fidelity. And the nuance of his playing is just beautiful. It's just so sympathetic as a cover. It's a very faithful, almost note perfect cover of the Clapton version, but how he's filling out the sound and how he's orchestrated it on the guitar with his fingerstyle playing to make it, even fuller. His vocals are clean and really, really nicely done. And then some of his lead work is it's just to die for. Really? But, he's done loads of videos of him playing online. And, I just think,
I've just subscribed to him now. Subscribe along with us, listeners. Like, go and search for these people whilst we're, if you haven't heard of them, go and search for them and subscribe to them, because it's exciting to have new people to listen to.
He deserves a bigger audience than he's got, right? I mean, it's not a small audience. He has 100,000 subscribers, but when you watch his playing and you go, in this day and age of YouTube, where it's not uncommon for guitar YouTubers to have followers in the millions, he definitely warrants having followers in the millions. His playing is sublime, absolutely sublime. He's done some Santana stuff, which I watched as well, which is just great. I've got more of his videos to watch. I'm only kind of just getting into some of his stuff, but tasty player, really tasty.
I'm excited to have somebody new to listen to. It's awesome. Cool. Right. Cool. I'm going to move. Let's get moving with this. So my next guy I want to recommend is a young chap from the UK called John Nathan Cordy. That's the name of his channel. Ooh. John Nathan Cordy, Cordy is the last name. The reason I'm recommending him is because for me, he's one of the best channels on YouTube that frequently talks about using guitar modelers. He's a user of them all. He's got all the helixes, he's got the Pod Go, he's got all the fractal stuff, he's got some of the cheaper stuff, the Boss stuff like the Nook stuff and the Hotone stuff. He does a lot of stuff about using that. He's a big Helix fan, but what's great about him is he's really innovative with how he uses the modeling gear. So we've often talked about why should you use a modeler instead of an actual analog amp, and I've often said it's not the stuff that you can do with a modeler that you can't do in the real world that it allows you to do, like for an example, one of the last videos John Cordy did was about programming keyboard pads into your Helix so that you can use the Helix to trigger keyboard sounds. And then he did a demo song of an Ed Sheeran song, and it was Castle on the Hill, where he's playing the rhythm guitar part and then triggering all the keyboard pads from the Helix. So he's like a really innovative user of this equipment. And not only that, he's a monster guitar player as well. I mean, really great legato player, in that kind of, shred kind of thing, but really tasteful, you can tell he's grown up being a big fan of something like Eric Johnson, right? That kind of thing. He does some videos where he's teaching you licks. He does some videos where he's talking about jazz standards. He does some technical stuff. And he's just a, interesting guy who clearly spends all day playing guitar, and I really recommend going to his channel if you're starting out with modeling for the first time and you need to find some videos from somebody who knows how to set up presets and to give you ideas on how to fine tune the sound to be more natural and things like that. His channel's got to be at the top of your list. He's really great.
Nice, man. I'm going to subscribe to that as well. Cool. Yeah, I've not heard of him at all. Amazing. All right. Awesome. So where do we go from here? Okay. So I'm going to mix it up a little bit. All and right. So we've talked about people that teach us stuff. We've talked about players that talk about that kind of thing, like music theory and improving technique. But in terms of other guitar related stuff that I get a lot of enjoyment out of watching, gear reviews. Like there's the web is awash with like people giving their opinion on gear reviews, and it's quite a subjective thing, right? Because they might be trying out a piece of gear that is in their signal chain, and so your mileage may vary with how you use it and all of that. So you've got to kind of take it with a pinch of salt. But one of the people that's really helped me with my kind of pedal stuff, so you've just recommended somebody really useful if you're on the whole modeling thing, but somebody who's very much into the whole analog pedals, but very much of the ethos that we have, which is you don't have to spend like $1,000 on a boutique hand-wired pedal to get your dream sound, right? You can get some really great tones from affordable pedals and affordable gear. He's a guy who runs the channel called In the Blues. So,
it's the Australian guy. Is that right?
Yeah, I either Australian either Australian or from New Zealand. Yeah, I can't remember. His name's Shane. I've forgotten exactly where he's based. I think he's Australian
because I do follow that channel, and I think he's based in Melbourne or something like that.
Oh, okay, perfect. But I just find his presentation style really engaging. He's a killer blues player. He's a killer guitar player. But he has turned me on to so many great pedals that sit in that budget mid-range level that are really, good quality giggable pedals as well. And that's the key thing, right? Is, as gigging guitarists, we want to know that we can take a piece of kit out and make some noise with it in a band. So yeah, I remember utilizing his channel so much when I was building my first pedal board years ago, as well as your own advice, Matt, as we were kind of texting backwards and forwards about what to put on the pedal board, and I was watching his videos simultaneously. If you've not encountered his channel In the Blues, then yeah, definitely check it out. A great resource for anyone looking to put inexpensive but great sounding pedals onto their board. I value his opinion.
Do you know what? It's you who actually turned me onto his channel indirectly. Because if you remember years ago when we were in Roadrunner, you recommended a pedal to me. It was called the X Drive by Byang, I think it was. You could pick it up on Amazon for about 35 quid. But it's an absolute killer tube screamer clone, right?
It is a good
absolute fantastic tube screamer. And not only is it a brilliant tube screamer clone, but it has different modes for different like EQ curves or whatever, and you can swap the chip out in it. So the main chip you can swap out for a different one and get even more sound. But when you recommended that to me, I thought I'll go and check out YouTube, and one of the first videos was his demo of it, and I thought that's a fantastic demo. And he had a demo of like top 10 drive pedals under $100 kind of thing as well. Exactly as you say, just such a really great resource for for if you are on a budget. I mean, even not, he does some expensive stuff too, but if you are on a budget, he's a superb resource. A really good channel.
He is, and I guess why I keep revisiting his channel, because there are plenty of people that do great gear reviews on YouTube, But what I found is the things that he says and comments on around the tonality of a pedal or the functionality of it and his view on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. When I then end up going and getting that pedal and experiencing it for myself, I find the same things that he has said. And it's not just because I've watched his video, because I've bought pedals first and tried them out and then watched his video on it. So I don't always kind of do it the other way around, where I just watch what he's saying is a good pedal and then go and buy it. Sometimes I just, see a pedal, check it out, and then later I'll watch his video. And often, more than often, he has the same view that I have on that pedal. So then it becomes another set of ears for me that I trust, because he's hearing things in the same way that I am, or the pedal's responding in the same way. And he had a lot of similar things in his signal chain. So he was using for a long time, and I think he still is using a Fender Blues Deluxe with a swapped out speaker. Again, that I got that tip from him, actually. Really? Yeah, he plays Strats.
That changing that speaker transformed your amp for you, didn't it? Really?
Yeah, for sure.
For that Cannabis Rex speaker that you've got in there, is that right?
Yeah, I didn't put the same speaker that he put in. Right. I tried something different, but again, his advice, just because I think he did a video where people were asking what was in his signal chain, and I was just like, oh, he is using the same amp as me, and pretty much similar parts in his signal chain. So no wonder I'm experiencing and hearing the same things when I'm, buying stuff from his gear reviews. But he was the one that said, if anyone owns one of these amps, it's a fantastic gigging amp, but do yourself a favor and change out the speaker. And I did. And again, he was absolutely right and dead on with that.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Check him out. In the Blues, his channel's called. Shane from Melbourne. Go and give him a follow. He's fantastic. Cool. The next one for me I wanted to mention, this is a bit of a different tack. This isn't like somebody who really plays a lot. This is somebody who I just find has an absolutely fascinating channel. I don't know if you've heard of it. The channel's called 5 Watt World.
Ooh, I have heard of that, but I haven't watched a lot of it. I need to, I guess.
I was trying to think how best to describe this channel, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you his about page from YouTube. Right. Okay. So he says, and I quote, 5 Watt World started out as me wrestling with the question of how much gear did I really need after spending decades collecting guitars and buying and building amplifiers. As I dug down into what mattered to me most, I realized that no one had made short history of the iconic gear. And so I made one about the Telecaster, and that proved very popular.
Cool.
As I'm always engaged by a good story, I started making others. Now I try to alternate between a video on how to have less gear and histories that I hope will help people find the tone in their heads without having to buy everything that I went through. I hope that works for you. And that's a guy called Keith. I think he's based in the States, but some of his videos about the history of things, like one of them recently has been the tones of Clapton, the guitars of Eric Clapton, short histories on the Les Paul, short history on the Strat. He goes into such fantastic detail without it being overwhelming about information. He's got such a great presentation style as well. He does everything, face to camera, and he's got a lot of information. It's just such a great channel. So it's not really about the playing or about, anything educational in terms of, technique or anything like that. It's just really like a really great source of fascinating information presented in a really, really wonderful way. So I recommend his channel. A guy called Keith, I think his last name. 5 Watt World. It's superb.
I can see myself losing a lot of time on that channel. That's that's a nice kind of channel to just sit and watch without feeling the need to have to go and play or just kind of go and buy more gear or anything like that. It's just kind of like just sitting watching documentary stuff about the gear that you always wanted to know. How did it come about? That's a great channel. Great recommendation.
Yeah, so it's superb. 5 Watt World. Check him out.
Nice, man. Cool. Look, in the interest of time, because there are literally thousands of amazing YouTube channels, and the more I'm looking at the ones I subscribe to, the more I'm realizing, I'm not going to mention that. I'm not going to mention that. So I'm going to do, I'm going to do a couple of honorable mentions, that even though they don't need my help mentioning them, because they are super, channels that most people have heard of. And then I'm going to give one more mention of a channel that I just love watching. So honorable mentions that are in my subscribe list that I often, will watch their content because they're awesome. Music is Win. That's a
of course,
great, classic channel, great channel, great content, great player. Tomo Fujita Music, Tomo's channel, it's just awesome. The legend, John Mayer's guitar teacher, great channel. Occasionally, if I'm feeling like I've got 3 hours to devote to watching one singular topic covered in depth, I'll watch That Pedal Show. Mick and Dan, absolute legends. But honestly, I just wonder if it's too much detail sometimes to go into one drive pedal for that long. But they're great players, and
absolutely.
God, the encyclopedic knowledge that those guys have is just enviable.
It is just astounding, isn't it? How much those guys know.
Crazy. Yeah. Paul Davids, Dutch legend, man. His channel, he's just super cool, super great player. I love the little challenges he does that he sets other YouTube guitar players and they come back and record stuff for him. And, I spend a lot of time watching his stuff, and he does great lessons. He helped me get my head around Big Love by Fleetwood Mac and some of the finger styling on that, which I dutifully learnt through him, and then have subsequently forgotten because I forgot to practice it. But thank you, Paul, for helping me figure that one out at one point. It's the problem now when I learn stuff, I just forget it because I'm getting old. Chris Buck, he's just a ridiculous player that has so much talent. It's just unfair. His tone is just to die for. His playing is insane. He has a show called Friday Fretworks, which some of it I like, some of it I don't think he's the greatest presenter on YouTube or the most engaging with his style. And no criticism, Chris, because I say that having just criticised you, but I still watch all your videos and I still find them really interesting.
Yeah.
But as a guitar player, my God, if I could have 1 ounce of his talent, I'd be a happy man. He is just killer.
It's enviable.
He's just. Anyway, enough said about his playing. If you haven't checked out Chris Buck, do yourself a favour. He is just one of the best guitar players in the world today. He's
one of the first guitar players in years that I think kind of can compete with Derek Trucks for that
easily
for phrasing capability. Do you know what? Because like Derek Trucks obviously can play and shred, but the thing that I've always loved about him is he can phrase like an amazing soul singer can phrase.
Yeah,
like do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like his playing sounds like Aretha Franklin singing, and Chris Buck's the first person for years for that is the same kind of thing. I'd love to hear those two play. But Chris Buck.
I feel exactly the same. Yeah, his playing just speaks to me in the most emotional way. That is, it's it's just incredible.
Yeah.
And then, but the final channel that I'm going to mention, because I almost have had to wean myself off it, and I've had a little bit of a break from it, because when I start watching this channel, I go into a deep rabbit hole with it that actually gets to the point where I start to question my life choices and remind myself what my actual dream career is and what I really want to go and do. So the channel is Crimson Guitars.
Yes.
Yes, as Matt. Yes. All right. So Crimson Guitars is a guitar builder, luthier channel. They're based actually wonderfully in the UK, which pleases me enormously, and not that far from where we live, and actually in a part of the world where I used to spend a lot of time. And it's a dream of mine to go and study lutherie at a higher level and go from being a reasonably competent guitar tech to actually being a fully blown luthier that can turn a block of wood into something incredible. And if anybody has any inklings towards that, or even if you just like playing guitar and want to just watch some cool guitar-based stuff, go to Crimson Guitars. Super charismatic presenting, knowledge and skill and craftsmanship that will make you weep, all delivered with humor and a lightheartedness and loads of challenges. And I buy a lot of their tools and stuff for when I do my guitar tech stuff. Their tools and things are quality. And great content, and just constantly churning out incredible guitar content that just inspires me to want to just do something different with my life. Really.
No, I completely agree. But you know what I love about the Crimson Guitars channel? One is, again, the quality of the content is fantastic, but it is all about building guitars. But some of the videos he does where he builds a guitar, Ben Crow, so the guy who's the founder of Crimson Guitars, obviously quite a big company now, I understand. But he started this lutherie school. But I love the videos he does where he builds a guitar from scratch, and you get to see him literally, this is the template I'm going to use, and he's cutting this fresh piece of wood on a bandsaw, and even things like shaving the neck and everything. It's not like he's putting a kit together or he's kind of setting up a guitar. He really does show you the entire process, and it's kind of warts and all. You see him make the mistakes if he makes the mistake. I love that about, he shows the entire process he goes to, in all honesty, and he's really, really, like you say, charismatic. Don't be put off by the tattooed head.
I love his tattooed head.
Yeah, I know he's got like a fully tattooed head, but he's just he seems like such a genuine, honest, nice bloke. Why wouldn't he be with a tattooed head? Yeah. But still, it's just a great channel. Good shout, man.
You know when you meet people that genuinely intimidate but also excite you by how clever they are.
Yeah.
Like he's that guy for me, right? Where it's just like, how do you know this and how to do it, and how did you get to that level of just, because it's not only creative and skilled, there's a level of intellect that sits behind all of this that just astonishes me, where I go, wow, for your brain even to be able to work like that is just super cool. Cool. So that's also
he makes beautiful instruments when he's finished with them. Some of them are just absolutely. I mean, he did one in the last year or two called the Nebula. I think it was like this kind of flat top jazz kind of thing. I've never seen anything like it. Absolutely stunning instrument. But what a shout! So I'm gonna. Is that your list? Is that your?
That's that. I mean, look, I could go on for hours, mate, because there are others. But I think what I've tried to do is give, as you have as well, some kind of grassroots names that everyone knows, and if you don't, go and check them out, but also mention some more lesser known sites that people might not have heard of. That are definitely worth their time if they haven't stumbled across them already. That's the ones I'm going to mention today.
Well, I'm going to do the same thing as you. Before I come to my last one, I'm just going to breeze through a few that didn't make it on my top 5, but are definitely worth looking for. So one of them is 501 Chorus Echo. Sounds stupid, but it's actually a guy called Tom Bukovac, who's probably one of the top session players in Nashville at the moment. He's an incredible guitarist, and he just does a lot of like daily session diaries and playing in his house and just talking about things. Like he'd sit there with a beer, play a guitar for you, and then sit there with a beer and tell you a story for 10 minutes. That kind of thing, just very informal. Another one, Alan Hines, and that's spelled ALLENHINDS. Alan Hines is a teacher at the Music Institute in like California, and he's got a channel and he does some cool stuff on there. I like following him mainly because I like his guitar playing. It's quite interesting, unique way he plays and the way he holds the pick. Another one that I really, really like and really recommend is another Nashville guy called Jack Ruch, spelled RUCH. He's another great teacher. He does a lot of lessons showing you simple things like how to integrate like a jazz turnaround into a blues and stuff like that. If you're a blues guitarist and you're thinking, I wish I could do a bit more jazzier stuff and outside stuff, he's a great channel to go to. And then if you want to understand jazz, and I haven't yet, but jazz is something I've wanted to get more into. There's another guy from, I think, the Netherlands called Jens Larsen, who's got a fantastic channel of really, really great stuff. But the last one I wanted to mention, and it's another British guy who I don't think gets anywhere near enough said about him, is Tom Quayle. And I really love his channel because, first of all, the quality of his productions is up there with the best, in terms of video quality, editing, the sound quality of his recording. He's one of the best guitar players out there in terms of technique. He's one of those legato guys, but he could play anything. He could play jazz, rock, blues, everything. Superb player, superb guitarist, really great channel, does a lot of reviews, does a lot of lessons, does a lot of kind of demonstrations as well. Very upfront about when something's a demo and when something's a review as well. He will tell you, I've been asked to demo this, not to review it, kind of thing, which means he's not going to be critical necessarily. But he's upfront about that, and I like that about him. I like his honesty. But yeah, that's me, Tom Quayle. Go and check him out. So check those guys out. And I think that's, for all our listeners now, you're probably going to lose about 2 weeks worth of your life watching all these.
Easily, man. I'm subscribing. Just in the last couple of minutes, as you've been saying names, I'm like, yeah, don't know that one, and I'm just literally banging them into YouTube and hitting subscribe. So my YouTube feed is going to be filled with a whole raft of new stuff. Amazing. Man. And Tom Quayle, someone you'd mentioned to me before, and I'd watched some of it and gone, yeah, he's great, but forgotten to subscribe. So then it kind of went. But I've subscribed now, so that's it. I'm going to get stuck into some of that.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, there you go. That's the evening's entertainment.
That is the evening's entertainment.
Now, apart from I'm gigging tonight, maybe tomorrow night. Yeah,
maybe a nice sit down with a nice single malt tonight and watch a few YouTube videos. Actually, no, I've got to learn some songs for tomorrow's gig.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm gigging. It's not going to happen, but maybe Sunday. That's Sunday night sorted.
Exactly.
That's Sunday night sorted. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, bud. Well, it's been lovely to see you again. So long.
Oh, mate, it's been too long.
We've got to get to the jam. Got to get a visit to the jam in the diary.
I know. We really have to. We really, really have to.
Yeah.
The thing is, we're too busy either playing or talking about playing.
or practicing for gigs.
To play. Yeah. So, but yeah, we will. Look, mate, I'm glad we're back.
Me too.
I hope the audience enjoyed this one, and no doubt we'll be back. And I've got some. I haven't told you, but I'll text you during the week. I also did some searching for some guests for the show as well while I was off, and I've got a good couple of leads for us to follow up on. One that I'm really excited about. So,
looking forward to hearing more about
that. Yeah, cool, man. All right, well, we'll speak during the week, but have a great weekend of playing, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. You too. But good luck with the gigs. Good luck with your hand, man. Tonight. Don't worry. Just warm up. Just warm up. You'll be all good, and I will see you next week.
Cheers, man.
All the best, mate. Thanks so much for listening. Great conversation again. If you like what you hear, then remember there are 60 other episodes you can check out. Go and enjoy them. Anyway, best wishes. See you next time on the Guitar Smarts podcast.